Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome. It's 10 a.m. Welcome to the next in our mind expansion series. What is biophilia and why is it the future of home design? It's a pleasure to have you with us today. Before we get down to business, a few quick housekeeping items, as we always remind you. Please make sure that your audio and video are muted. The only people who you should see or hear are the four of us who are on the screen today. There is a chat button down the bottom. If you have a question that you wish to pose to the group, just hit that chat button and go ahead and type it in there. I'll keep an eye on it and we'll incorporate answers as the panel is talking. And again, the inevitable question, yes, we are recording today's program. You will receive via Eventbrite this afternoon a recording link to the Zoom program. So if you want to watch it after the fact, it'll be available on our YouTube channel. Look for something called a Lux stream. If you don't see it in your inbox, check your spam folder. So why today's program? Well, in recent years, as attention has begun to focus on quality of life considerations and climate change, of course, being a classic case in point, particularly with these hurricanes and fires that we're dealing with right now, the spotlight has now turned to biophilia as a design trend that architects and designers are beginning to embrace. And from indoor air quality to the incorporation of light, water, plants, natural landscapes, etc., biophilic design elements are now attracting serious interest from the architectural and design communities, and equally important from the clients they serve. So in this program today, we've assembled a panel of experts on the subject, including designers. This is important, including designers who have actual experience with biophilia. That's the important issue. This is not just theory at 30,000 feet. We're taking you down to ground level. Our panel today, we're very lucky to have in alphabetical order three remarkable panelists: Stacey Lapuk, who is a principal with Stacey Lapuk Interiors in the Bay Area; Eryn Oruncak, who is a principal of Elan Design in New York; and Mike Peterson, founder of Science and Design. Mike is considered to be the Dean Emeritus of biophilia in the United States. So we've assembled the right panel. And panelists, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. Before we get down to business, can we just go around the board quickly, Mike, starting with you? Just give me 1 minute, your experience with biophilia, and the same question of the other two panelists as well.
Well, several years ago, thank you, Al, first of all, for putting this together. Several years ago, I met an architect in Denver, Colorado, by the name of Don Ruggles, who was talking to me about how the beauty of nature actually improves health. And that kind of changed my career path. This is back in 2015. And since then, I've been studying on the subject, meeting with a couple of institutional advisors, and really trying to help our interior design industry begin to realize, and interior design and architecture begin to realize their role in improving the health of their clients. So it's been a fun trip for me, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of the things that I've learned over the last several years.
Stacey, same question.
I've always loved being in nature and being outdoors, and I've always incorporated that idea in my design. But about, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, I was really sick and I had to catch up on CEUs. And I found these courses on biophilic design and I thought, okay, that sounds good. And I just got buried in it. It's just amazing. So you have to have excellent design to begin with, but if you overlay that with biophilic principles, you can literally make differences. It's measurably proven to help people. And I went to art school. The rest of my family are attorneys and engineers and lawyers and doctors. And so this way I can say, look, it's proven. What I'm doing really does make a difference. So
Excellent. Eryn, the same question.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eryn Oruncak. I am based in Washington, D.C. That's
Sorry.
okay. No, that's okay. So our practice has always tapped into, we are a luxury design firm because we really customize our spaces. And when I noticed a physical change in one of our clients on our reveal, it was a direct connection of what our space did to her person. Fast forward a couple years, we heard about the word neuroaesthetics. We found Mike at High Point Market, went to one of his talks, and Mike will tell you I was jumping out of my seat the entire time, because that is what we do. Our spaces reflect nature and how that nature speaks to the person. And there's lots of things about biophilia that we'll get into. We're excited.
Excellent. So, Mike, I'm going to throw to you. Let's get in. What is biophilia? What is this thing? How and why did it develop? And what are the quantifiable benefits? So, give us the platform here to build on.
Well, let me answer that by sharing my screen just for a minute. I'm assuming you can see my screen now. Essentially, biophilia is an odd word. It sounds funny, and I know that. But breaking the word down, bio means nature or living. Philia means love of. So biophilia is essentially love of nature. And biophilic design is essentially design's ability to answer the innate need that we have for nature. We forget that we are nature as a people, and we have been born into nature. And so that's what biophilic design actually is. It was, honestly, it was our knowledge of plants, go back 100,000 years. And, we were connected with plants and animals and soils, and all of those things determined whether we would survive and prosper. We evolved in response to environmental forces over the millennia, and those environmental forces in our life have been nature. This is a quick look at who we are versus where we have to live. It's really fascinating. When you talk to neuroscientists and when you talk to biologists, they'll remind us that on the left is where our species was born and raised. It's where we adapted. But on the right is where we live. That happens to be LA. It could be any urban area right now. But what it does is portend an incredible opportunity for all of us in our businesses, whether it be real estate, architecture, or interior design, and understanding the opportunity and the need that there is for us to reconnect with what is natural to us. Susan McSalmon is the head of the Arts and Mind Lab at Johns Hopkins University, and she's the author of Your Brain on Art. And if you like this subject, you should get the book, Your Brain on Art. And she says humans have existed less than 1/100% of our species' history in modern surroundings. The other 99.99% of our time was living in nature. And she goes on to say it's no wonder that we look for and need the physiological and psychological functions of where we began and where we were naturally supported. Now, biophilia began to take root, sorry for the pun, roughly in the early 1980s, and it was by accident. There's a hospital outside of Philadelphia that was noticing that some patients were recovering from surgery faster than others. So they brought in Professor Oruncak out of Texas A&M, who did a study and realized that some patients had a view out the window of a brick wall. Other patients had a view out the window of a tree landscape. Well, it turns out in one of these first studies and experiments that the recovery time was down almost 1 full day for those who had a view out the window of the tree landscape. And the use of pain medication for them was also down 22%, because we now know that the pain receptors in our brain are connected to those receptors that seek out pleasure and beauty. It's fascinating what we have learned in just the last 30 years. And the last slide I'll show you right now is a reminder that this is part of our evolutionary inheritance. We don't have a choice. This is where we lived on the left, and it's why we appreciate the view on the right. This is in our DNA. It's encoded in our DNA, and we don't have a choice. We fundamentally need nature as a species. I'll stop my share now, Alf.
So, Stacey and Eryn, let me throw over to you. given what Mike has just said, and I understand that this is anecdotal. I'm not looking for research numbers or verification with data. Anecdotally, what are you seeing? What are you hearing in terms of the benefits of biophilic design? What's being fed back to you from your clients from these designs, and what are you hearing from the trade? Eryn, let's start with you.
I have a couple of slides. Alf, can I share those?
Please go ahead.
Ready to go.
We got you.
Thank you. Thank you. So neuroaesthetic, biophilia falls under neuroaesthetics. Mike talked about our connection with nature. As human beings, we have this inherent similarity almost to our environment. Everybody on this call understands that people are affected by their spaces. And because these spaces speak to our human beings, they comfort our senses, and ultimately they send cues to our brain and nervous system that affect the way we think, how we feel, and ultimately what we do in that space. So that, in a nutshell, is neuroaesthetics, and biophilia falls under that. In terms of anecdotally, my clients, I'll tell you a quick story. We had, and this was the person that I mentioned earlier today. We did a ladies' office, and she was full-time work from home. This was 2018 or 2017, I believe. She was full-time work from home, and her husband started to work from home 2 days a week. So she called us and said, I need my own office. I like the color blue and no flowers, please. Done. Easy enough. We delivered her office, and on the reveal day, she walked in and her posture changed. It was an obvious change in her physical structure. And I looked at her and I said, Christy, you're going to get a raise within the year. We put it on our calendar. I called her back in a year and I said, Christy, did you get the raise? And she said, you know, I did. I got the raise and I got a promotion. She says, but I have to tell you, there's a bonus that happened. You know, remember that little seating area that you made by the window? My daughters now get off the bus and come and visit with me for 30 minutes to 45 minutes every day. She says, that never happened before. And we all kind of take that time off the bus. It's become our routine. So my clients, they receive raises and promotions. They feel closer to their families, and they call us and they tell us that they feel healthy and happy and light in the house and in the rooms that we made for them.
Stacey, what about you?
Yeah, so clients tell me when they open their door and go into a home that we just completed that they've literally walked into their dream. And I think one of the reasons is that, as both Mike and Eryn have spoken of, we are nature, and we can biologically align ourselves with the elements of nature, which is us, right? Bringing these elements inside, into our built environment. So following our design work, clients say they love our homes. Their friends like to come over and spend time in their homes, as the hangout place, because it just feels good. And I'm going to show some examples here as well. Let's see, here we go. So this is an example of a showcase house I did, but there are biophilic elements that could be incorporated into anybody's space. We're repeating elements. So you can see there are 3 bolsters, 3 candlesticks, 3 little bowls. You don't walk into the space and say, oh, look, there are ridges everywhere, right? But there are. And because they are, it's like you see duplications, fractal geometries in leaves, for example, or other things that are in nature. When you bring those in, the way the light is, it feels like you're walking into a candle. when you walk into this space because of the way the light is and the way it reflects. And that feels good to us. It's comfortable, it's calming. We play with light and shadow, which is another biophilic principle. Natural elements, the purple plum branches in the sculpture over the bed. I've got a water element where this sculpture is in the back. It's half of a Buddha face, but you hear the water, so that's very comforting. Another example is this space in Coal Valley. This was her apartment when she walked in, right? Her flat. And that's probably what most of your spaces look like, right? Or your clients, when you first walk in, they just move in, put the furniture in, they've got a place to sit, they're good to go. But then they realize, I'm not happy here. So in this case, she entertains a lot. She wanted the room to be very conducive to having a lot of friends over. So because she's in the middle of the city, I wanted it to feel like she's more connected to nature. So above the plate rail, we put wallpaper that has greenery on it, and it extends the green plants that are in the space. It extends the green imagery that's in the paintings all the way up, so you feel enveloped in there. Using patterns that reflect nature. There are leaves on the plates. There's fabric, florals on the chairs, and of course, the floral in the carpet. Using cane backs because what's the word I'm thinking of? It's translucent, right? You see little bits of things through it, just like out in nature. You sort of see things through the leaves and through, over the hills and all of that. Having mystery where you walk down a path and you don't quite know what's around the corner. Having artwork that does a couple of things. One, it'll push that space out so it feels like the space is actually larger, but it also gives you that hit of I guess it's serotonin, when it's like, wow, what's over there, right? What's going to happen? And then lastly, there's this example of a space in Sea Ranch where it's all natural materials. We have certified white tiger wood floors. We reused the Doug fir. All the materials and fabrics are linens and organic cottons. The wall finishes, the cabinetry finishes mimic, they're actually the exact same process that we used on a little red Chinese basket way back on the counter there. We found the way that they used to do it hundreds of years ago. So you're bringing that handness and the maker's way of creating things, all that energy you're then bringing into the space, which is very organic and very biophilic. And I'm probably out of my time here, so.
Let me ask the question to all of you. I get the impression that not a lot of people know about biophilia. Let's stay with the profession, designers, architects, contractors. I would suspect that the knowledge and understanding is less. Who are the early adopters in terms of the clients who are coming to you now, or the architects and contractors you're working with? Who are they? What is there a profile around them? Mike, can you kick us off there?
Sure. The early adopters really are tied to those who want increases in efficiency and profitability. One of the things about biophilic design is that we now know that it improves health. Well, if you're a major a major corporation, and you want efficiency in the workplace, and you want increases in productivity, you want increases in creativity, you're going to surround yourself, you're going to build your headquarters out of biophilic principles, because the early adopters are the ones that ultimately have wanted profitability. And profitability comes as a result of increases in health, less absenteeism, for instance, increases in creativity and productivity. The other reason that some of these major corporations want biophilic design is that it begins to position them rather uniquely. It differentiates them. They're fighting for employees, so they want an environment that is more calming and de-stressing in the workplace. So there's some of the early adopters.
But to the three of you, are there specific, can you name companies Can you name who's doing this right now? Because I'm hard pressed to find who's. I mean, everybody's doing LEED, but it took LEED certification 30 to 40 years to become entrenched. Who's starting to play with biophilia? Stacey, you, and then Eryn.
I actually have an example here. We all know about the Apple place in headquarters in Cupertino.
The spaceship.
The spaceship. It is pure biophilic, right? It's every employee has a view of the outside. They've created a space where you meander through hallways. It's not like a straight, like a runway. You don't have straight lines in nature, right? So, and it duplicates shapes, just like you have duplicated shapes in nature with the circles and the way they did their landscaping, around there. So that's a corporate. And another one that was done, the Marin Civic Center. Frank Lloyd Wright, this was before biophilia became a thing, right? But he knew innately that to connect a building and connect a design to its surroundings, to nature, will help you feel good. And feeling good is going to make you more productive. And you're more productive, you're more profitable. So those are a couple of examples.
To the three of you, are your clients coming to you, or certainly to you, Stacey, and to you, Eryn, are your clients coming to you and saying, we want biophilia, even if they don't use that terminology? Are they asking for that right now?
No, they're not asking for it. They don't understand the word. So they are coming to us as the professionals. The interior designers, we all know that people come to us to make the decisions. We want to get a result. Many designers tap into that customization of the spaces. Can I share a screen? I'm going to share my screen, Alf. Here we go.
Please.
So I'll go back to this part. With biophilia, we add this nature to speak to their people. So there are 15 solid patterns of biophilia that are broken up into 3 different categories. There's nature in the space, there's representations of nature, and then there's nature of the space. So nature in the space is the plant, the green walls that we see. Representations of nature is the marble flooring, and the nature of the space is that mystery that Stacey spoke about earlier. There's another one called Prospect and Refuge. Mike showed a picture of that. Something that I like to use is the 15th principle called awe. So here we have here's nature in this space. This is a successful room. This is a bathroom in the Hamptons, and the client, they loved it. This space has the marble flooring. It has the zigzag pattern on the towel that takes it from right to left, front to back. You see the zigzag happening also in the natural rattan hamper. All of these natural elements, when the clients walk into the space, they get the feeling. Ultimately, the client wants to walk into the room, and there's a feeling that everybody knows when they walk into the room. Oh my God, I love it in here. This feels great. On the other end, there are rooms that you say, I don't really like it, I'm gonna leave. So our senses send cues subconsciously to our beings. This is good here, that you're great here, or it's not. We have this room here. This is a successful space. Kohler put this in their 2021 spring catalog. This is also a representation of biophilia. You see the repetition of patterns in the stars on the knob and the star light fixture. The tile represents fractals in nature, flowers or greenery, but in an interesting kind of urban way. And then we have the natural elements of the marble. So when you walk into a space and you go, wow, which people walked into this space and they went, wow, that is awe. That is a physical reaction that you have. And this space we created is wraps all the three categories into one. So our clients, when they walk into the room, they want to feel a certain way. The boucle on the chair, literally, they can touch it. They feel it, they sit down in the chair. You have the raw cotton throw on one of those chairs. That's our private label from Turkey. We actually source these natural throws from Turkey along with the wool rug. That is authentic sheep's wool from the villages of Turkey. We get it right from the village. And you can feel, if you stand on this rug, everybody, people on the call will know that when you source, when you acquire something from the source, there's a different kind of quality there. There's a different kind of texture and value to it. And that translates in the energy. We also see the outside, there's a prospect and refuge in this place. So this terminology is good for people to understand the theory of prospect and refuge, the 15 principles of biophilia. These are things to really tap into and incorporate into your design, and directly and indirectly, you'll see that your clients are happier. They're willing to pay more. They're willing to pay you for more of bringing these specific scientific studies and proof, like Stacey said earlier, to them. It's not just about picking, great things out of a store. We are literally crafting the environments that are supporting the health and well-being of our clients.
Let me throw a comment. I was talking to a contractor recently on the subject of environmentally sound and green materials in the design process, the architecture process. I said, "Are your clients coming to you and asking for green?" And he said, "No." He said, "I build it in. I don't tell them, but when they see it at the end, they're so happy." Now, of course, we're talking with clients who can afford to, they're not worried about the budgets. They're not quibbling over dollars and cents. Is it the same principle here? I assume that your clients are not coming to you and saying, "I want biophilic design," but you're sort of, you're easing it in there and they're liking what they see. And then secondly, to your point, Eryn, is this a competitive advantage for a designer?
100%.
Who wants to take that? Somebody.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
This is a competitive advantage. It elevates our knowledge. So personally speaking, individually speaking, us as business owners, when we have the toolbox that we can describe to our clients and also their partners, and also sometimes we have the nosy neighbor sitting at the table. Sometimes, the conversations get a little squirrely. When we can sit within ourselves in a very confident way and describe to them what we need to do, what we are going to deliver, and how this is worth the investment that they are going to make, sometimes it's a no-brainer, done deal. You just sold the, whatever Turkish rug or whatever. It also puts us at a level of a professional where I'm not necessarily questioned often in terms of when I make a suggestion. If somebody doesn't like that, it's totally fair. But it's not like, oh, why don't we do this? And why don't we do that? When I start to describe neuroaesthetics and biophilia, I'm coming from a place of expertise. I'm giving you the information that you're hiring me for.
Stacey, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, everything that Eryn said. And I
Thanks.
think what we offer, half of our job is to educate our clients, right? So they understand and appreciate the value of what they're getting. But as designers who incorporate biophilic principles, not only are we creating beautiful spaces for people, but we're creating beautiful spaces that are aligned with their biology,
Mhm.
right? There's a real advantage to being able to have people walk into a space and feel better. They're more productive. It helps with kids with ADHD. It helps with people feeling focused and productive, or just light and joyful, depending on how we use the various patterns, right? As Eryn mentioned, there are 15 specific patterns and systems in biophilic design, and each of those have been proven to affect different neurological aspects of our being. And if we can only remember that we're, how can I say this? The world would be a lot happier if everyone factors in that beauty is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And we are connected to beauty through nature. That's our first hit of what's beautiful as biological beings. So,
Okay.
so that's our competitive edge. And people don't necessarily ask for it, but they appreciate it as you're describing what
Once they get it.
getting. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mike,
Yeah.
let me go back to hard business for a second. If we assume that the time path for biophilia is going to sort of parallel lead and Green Guard and some of these other measurement systems, is the movement going to grow from the commercial side or from the individual? Is it going to be hospitals? Is it going to be hotels? Is it going to be spas, resorts, Ritz-Carlton, Canyon Ranch? Is that the impetus? Or is it going to come from the individual consumer to Eryn and to Stacey? Or
Yeah,
both?
I would say that it's not going to be. It already has been. Your commercial institutions around the world are already adopting biophilic principles, and as I mentioned,
Such as?
well, you've already heard about Apple. I'm going to show you pictures in just a few minutes of some of the other commercial institutions. You have hospitals around the country that are
Hotels.
and hotels.
Hotels. We were just in Turkey, and the hotel we stayed at in Turkey completely enveloped biophilic design all over the hotel.
So, Mike, show us your list. If that is that you were planning to do that?
Well, I think the question is who are the people today that are leading the education on this? Is that what you're asking
Exactly.
me?
Yes,
Well,
please.
you have organizations, you have major institutions already adopting and employing it, but you have major consulting firms and organizations today that are leading the education of these institutions, but also the individual interior designer. There's an organization that was started several years ago called Terrapin Bright Green out of the East Coast, and they are probably the most renowned authority in biophilic design. They publish a book titled Nature Inside. They've also just in the last 2 years published a special work titled The Economics of Biophilic Design. They're truly the number one leader. If you want to know about biophilic design, you go to Terrapin Bright Green and study what they're doing.
Could you spell that for us, Mike? I know
Sure,
it seems
Terrapin,
strange.
Terrapin, and the second word is bright green, BRIGHT, green, GREEN.
Thank
Now,
you.
in addition to Terrapin Bright Green, you have other institutions such as the Biophilic Institute, and all of these can be found online. You have the Journal of Biophilic Design out of the United Kingdom. You have an excellent book titled Beauty, Neuroscience, and Architecture by Don Ruggles that deals with neuroaesthetics, but he spends a reasonable amount of time on the value of beauty and nature. You have another book that's published by Stephen Keller titled Nature by Design. And there's also a book titled Your Brain on Art that I've already referenced earlier from Susan McSalmon at Johns Hopkins. who talks about aesthetics and nature and how they're intertwined. So this is, 10 years ago, most people had never heard of the word biophilia, but today it is firmly rooted in the world of education, and we just need to expand the concept even further.
Okay, and back, Mike, to my question again: who are the corporate leaders in this movement, if there are corporate leaders?
Well, let me share my screen, and I'll give corporate leaders. Corporate leaders would be those that I just mentioned, but are you talking about the corporate leaders that are already employing?
Yes, I'm talking about the corporate institutions, whether they're hospitals, hotels, resorts, spas, etc., who are leading the charge, if
Okay,
any
hold on
exist.
just for a minute. Then let me go ahead and jump to a couple of examples. You've already seen Apple's headquarters that Stacey was talking about. The corporate leaders such as Microsoft. Microsoft is now building conference rooms in treetops, because they know the value of the creative value and the productivity that is enhanced and increased as a result of being inside of nature. Now, I noticed in the chat, there's a question about hospitals. Hospitals around the world today are already employing biophilic design in order to improve the health of their clients. You heard me reference the study that was done back in 1984. Well, that began the process of hospitals realizing that biophilic design and biophilia would indeed lower heart rate, lower blood pressure, and create something called GSR, which is a galvanic skin response. It's a change in the chemical structure of our skin. This is the Kutek Phuat Hospital in Singapore, and it's the standard for hospital design around the world today. If you're drawing up a brand new hospital, you make a pilgrimage to Singapore to see the Kutek Phuat Hospital. There's another hospital in the United Kingdom. It's called Maggie Center. It's a cancer facility. Look at this room. Look at the fractal beauty. That's the patterning of the walls and the ceilings. Look at the abundance of natural sunlight, the natural color tones, the pockets of greenery. And you also have biophilic design now and fractal patterning being used to help in our educational process. This is an elementary school that replaced one that had to be torn down in Sandy Hook, Connecticut. Take a look at the movement, the lyrical movement of the roof line. As Stacey mentioned, there are no straight lines in nature. Look at the natural color tones, the concave nature of the front of the building, the stone wall, the lyrical movement of the canopy over the front door. Going inside, look at the environment that these kids are in now that help them thrive. The color contrast, the sunlight, the fractal patterning. These are the institutions that I think you were referencing are leading the way. Let me get out of the share now. That are leading the way around the world, Alf.
Well, I was just that photograph of Maggie's hospital in the UK. I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about a hospital I saw recently, the most sterile, demoralizing environment that a patient can possibly be in, and you compare and contrast, it becomes very, very clear.
Alf, hold on just for a second. It was funny because I had a doctor's appointment yesterday, and I went into the typical doctor's office, and I literally looked at the doctor when he walked in, and I said, "You know something, Doc, you're killing me. This room is just, there's nothing beneficial to this room." And we got into a lengthy conversation of biophilic design. And I said, "Truly, you're depressing me. You're making me unhealthy in this room." And I said, "Honestly, you guys should know better." And so it still happens around the world. It still happens in doctors' offices. But Alf, we're getting there.
Okay. I want to get granular for a moment, but particularly with you, Eryn, and you, Stacey, if I can. Some of the nitty gritty, the points I put down were, if we're taking a biophilic project, the issues that come to mind are cost, the time to design, the time to build, zoning ordinances, which in the Bay Area are the most horrendous things, like the third cycle of hell, availability of qualified contractors, material sourcing, etc. Can we talk about that nitty gritty? But let's start with cost. Does biophilia bump up the cost significantly? Somebody.
I would say that there's such a low entry point to incorporating biophilic design compared to having a building that's LEED certified, for example, right? It doesn't cost more to do something in red than it does green. What it does cost more is the time that it takes to consider overlaying and integrating biophilic principles into the design. So the cost itself really is not related to a thing, although you could say things might be have better biophilic elements if they're handmade and they are locally sourced and they have a higher quality material, right? Those all are helpful, and that does in fact cost more. But again, the entry to incorporate biophilia is really quite low. So you get a benefit, you know, regardless.
From
Anything
my
to add on that? Go ahead, Eryn.
from my perspective, yes is the answer. It does cost more because our decisions are so deliberate, and they take into account sourcing these natural materials. So the natural materials, for me, sometimes it is, you know, you want the marble, you want the natural stone, you want the raw cotton, you want to get to those places that will inject in your space those that energy. You're looking for the energy. We don't like big box stores. We don't like cheap materials. We don't want to necessarily put our hands on something that's not quality handmade every day, 50 times a day for whatever we're doing. So we take into account what the clients actually need to do in that space, how it needs to function, and what it relays back to them. So in terms of functionality, sometimes, yes, it does cost more. The materials do cost more. Time to design definitely costs more because it's so deliberate and so personal. There's something called the default mode network. This is a scientific term. It's in our brain, default mode network, and the neurologists have taught us in neuroaesthetics that this is something that people believe. This is something they know to be true. In their mind, if you say, you know, how about this, or how about that, or how about a hide, or how about a piece of furniture, in their brain, they already have an idea what that means. Yes, that's good. No, that's not good. So this default mode network comes into play in terms of the customization. When we are picking things out, white marble may not be great, and people might like travertine better because of some preconceived notion. So that is where the time and cost does up the ante. It also
What about Go
it
ahead.
also ups the results too.
What about zoning? Any zoning issues? No.
I don't think that that's really an issue. We're not, I mean, unless we're doing something on the exterior
Right.
of
But
the
it's
house,
nothing
you know,
major.
for landscape design. Yeah.
What about contractors? Do you require a special set of skills from contractors?
Somebody who's good.
Absolutely.
They have to
Absolutely.
know
I
what
wanna-
they're doing and pay attention to detail, like any good project, right? It's an overlay to good design.
But you don't need a specialist. You don't need a specialist contractor or ability. A good contractor can follow the instruction and follow the plans. Yes.
Yeah.
And then source.
You hope so. You hope they do, and you hope they have respect for the people. Remember, biophilia means love of life. So it's all life. It's nature, it's the client, it's the every business owner, every worker that's on that job. So all of that energy for our projects translates to the entire team. That energy ultimately delivers a successful space, a successful project. The client will feel it. If it's a lot of fighting and the contractors are giving you a tough time and things aren't straight because it doesn't matter, the clients will feel that.
Mhm.
Okay. The I had a question on the on success and failure. Before I do that, just go, Stacey, going back to you quickly on sourcing. Do you find that you have to source through particular channels now, or can you source from the environment in general? Are you sourcing more plants, more greenery? Are there specific fabrics or materials that have to be imported? Or can you generally source in biophilic design from your surrounding channels of supply?
I think a lot of our suppliers and a lot of our vendors are becoming more aware and finding their resources that attend to things like, you know, there are more and more fabrics that are using more environmentally friendly systems to produce their fabrics and to move from, you know, the wool to an actual yardage. So different companies are putting in different efforts to create more sort of green products that are supposed to be sustainable and supposed to be, you know, certified and labeled organic. But there's a lot of research that has to go into each one of those to see really are they, right? If something says organic cotton, it doesn't necessarily mean it's
Right.
really organic cotton.
Right.
But as far as knowing the artisan and the craftsperson, you know, we're very lucky, at least here in the Bay Area, there are so many amazing, talented craftspeople that can create for us. And we're also aware of those kinds of people all over the world. I did fabric. There's a company called Fortuny out of Italy that has created this fabric. It's long staple cotton. It's beautiful. They're using the same hand-carved blocks that they've used for centuries. So you get a fabric with that kind of energy in it and that kind of care. It's, you know, it's heartwarming. Now the cost to ship it here is, you know, that's another issue. But, you know, we do what we can and we become more and more aware of what's available to us and try to educate the clients as to the value of investing in something that might be a little bit more, but it's because it's, you
Okay.
know, carried so much care.
Mike, a question I had, I meant to ask you before. Major biophilic projects that you're aware of coming down the pike, is the industry talking about some interesting new projects that we should be looking out for, either at a residential or commercial level?
Well, the ones that I know of are the ones that I just gave you in terms of the imagery, Alf. And there are numerous architectural efforts around the world. I don't have a list of the top 10 projects off the top of my head right now. But from an architectural perspective and from an interior design perspective, biophilic design now, as I said before, is firmly rooted, and it is taking hold.
Okay. We're running out of time here, so I'm going to run through this quickly. To Stacey and Eryn, to you too. When a biophilic project works, it's touched by God. Why is that? And the converse, when it bombs, when it fails, when it blows apart, why? Eryn, give me the success story.
The success story, the feeling. So you walk into the space and that space speaks to your being. You have a direct relationship that is that interaction of energy. So that energy that is created and presented to the person literally holds your hand and carries you throughout that room. I want to show, if you don't mind, Alf, I know you want to, we want to, we're on a schedule here. There is the space regulates the mind and nervous system. It creates an ease of motion. When you're in there, things seem easy. And as designers, we have the responsibility for managing the large investments. So when the client can come away after spending X amount of money and say, oh my God, it was worth every dollar, that is a successful space as well. And we involve our clients throughout the process. They have comfort in knowing that these decisions that are being made are in their best interest, and they feel the control during the process as well. So they come away from that experience saying, this is my ideal space. There's no hesitation there.
Hold that point. What is the language that a happy client says after you've delivered that perfect biophilic project? What's the language? What's the emotional feedback?
I love it in here. The emotional feedback is also the stories. The little girls getting off the bus and going to sit with mommy every day. That is a story. You know, my daughters, they visit with me now. We never had that before. So it's the actions that people take. It is the what's happening in their lives, though their lives have changed because of the spaces that we've made for them. And we want to talk to there's not a lot of builders on the call. The builders need to deal with quality workmanship. Yes, there are realtors, I believe, and designers here as well. So connecting the energy is so important in the room to the people. That flow, that open flow where people just visualize this is nice in here, and then making spaces where people can be together. Love of life. I want to be with you. You're my people. Pattern repetition is huge. Fractals, different fractals is a word to look up, everybody. And natural materials is really something great. So when we have a space that looks like this, we've all walked into spaces that look like this, it takes a nice shot of biophilia. We have it in the wallpaper, we have it on the tile, we envelop that person. So this is a 13-year-old's bathroom, and she asked for dark. I want it to be dark. So we gave her, mommy didn't like that. We're not doing dark, you know, but this is a successful space for her. And then you can also see the quality workmanship in this room. Each and every tile was had spacers put on there. So when you come from something that, you know, this is what we look at when we see these bathrooms, our crews are required to honor the project, honor the client, and honor the materials. And then you walk away with a space like this, that this lucky little 11-year-old girl can totally start and end her day in a magical way and feel phenomenal about herself. And that
go ahead. Sorry.
I won't talk too much longer, Alp, but this is good for realtors as well. So when the realtors need to sell and buy their properties, they have an idea of how the spaces are affecting the clients. So in this space, all you have to do is change the paint color, and that can be for any age and any gender. When you don't have a space like that, and you have a space like you see something on the left here, it's a little scary and daunting. So if you just paint the picture for your clients, if you are buying something like this, add moldings. Moldings are a tool. that is used in biophilia. It mimics the structure of the human being, and that gives us a sense of familiarity. So moldings are really a great tool also to use for completing projects. And these spaces, it helps the designer, it helps the builders, and it helps the realtors move their inventory.
Okay. And Stacey, the counter that when it goes wrong, why?
Poor design,
Mhm.
you know, and I apologize for the light. I don't, this is.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, just poor design, not paying attention to what it is you're trying to accomplish.
And the people too. When it goes wrong, it doesn't speak to the people. They don't like it.
Yeah.
They have a thing that it doesn't speak to them. So biophilia is definitely a very personal relationship and conversation that you need to have with your clients. What do you like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But quickly to that point, then, is there a tonality to the language? Is there a communication style when you're raising biophilia with the client? Quickly,
I think if a client is attuned to what they bring to an environment, you know, what their energy is like, I think that is an easier conversation to have. You know, that where do you feel most comfortable? I gave a talk once, and I asked everybody in the beginning of the talk to, you know, put their feet on the ground, close their eyes, imagine your favorite place, right? Your happy place. Everyone said someplace outdoors.
Mhm.
Recognizing that that is where you're most comfortable, and then bringing those elements into your interior where you spend 95% of your time, right? That's going to make you happier. It's not really that complicated to communicate. It gets complicated in order to create a well-designed space incorporating these principles.
as distinct from a client who wants to talk solely about budget, etc.
I'm sorry.
Quickly,
say that
Eryn.
again?
Photos. Show it to them. Put it in their hands. Have them experience that material. Have them understand the origin story of that. So I'm showing you a lamp right now. This is a nice. Can you hear me?
Eryn, we lost you. Yeah, we hear now. Go ahead.
There you go. This is a beautiful lamp from Palachek. We had a client that loved it, changed the budget. We have another client that said, I can't stand that. It looks creepy. No way. So it is that experience for them of what you're trying to create and all the elements that you add for them in that space.
All right. Mike, you have the final last word here. I just want to use you, if I can, as a sort of bibliography. You went through this before. Thank you very much for that. But just reprising again, if there was one website to go to, it would be what?
Oh my gosh. One website, certainly terrapinbrightgreen.com. Well, that would be the one. That's the authority in the business today.
Same with, and if I said consultant, you'd say the same thing, correct?
Yes.
Well, we all consult, Alf. We all consult. We're all experts. Mike is definitely an expert in this field. His is scienceanddesign.com. My website is elan.design, and we do consult with interior designers and builders. We consult with schools. We consult with elderly communities. So we're all consultants. You know, you get the SIDC certification and you have a solid knowledge base, not only for your business, but to affect the community as a whole.
Okay. And social media, if I'm a social media hound, I would go where to learn about biophilia? Is it Instagram? Is it Pinterest? Where am I going?
Oh,
LinkedIn.
boy. I think we all.
LinkedIn?
LinkedIn and Instagram. I think if you typed
Yeah.
in biophilia, on Instagram, you would get an abundance of sites and locations.
For sure.
Excellent. Panel, I want to thank you very, very much for hanging in here. We got a lot of information done in 55 minutes, and I know we've left a lot on the table as well. So I want to thank you for your information and for your willingness to help us out today. It's very valued. Again, to our participants, we will send you a live stream announcement later on this afternoon that will take you to a recording of today's program. If there's a particular note that you want to pick up on, or perhaps one of the references that Mike had to the various authorities out there, you can pick it up off that recording tape as well. So with that, we are adjourned. We thank you for being with us today. We want to see more biophilia in design. To all of you interior designers out there, we've helped stir the pot today, so we want to see more output from you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Alf.
Thank you, Alf.
Thank you, Alf. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
LuxeSF.